Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for sitting through my upcoming session. It was a very nice trip yesterday. I was a little delayed because of the weather, but I'm glad to be here. I'll go ahead and start the presentation. I'll give you some background. As you may already know, we've been doing this partnership with GoEd for over 3 years now. We have our third study coming up. So we've produced a lot of historic data tracking the evolution of the omega-3 EPA and DHA ingredients market at a global level. Oh, great, thank you. All right. And at the global level, and each year has been more and more complex, more and more detailed, and we've always tried to do a little bit extra more. And this year what we've done is we've produced an updated interactive model that I'll talk about in a bit on how to use that. So I'm very excited. We've also done more analysis in Asia Pacific, specifically in China and in Japan, which has been a challenging task, but very fruitful. And also, of course, we are continuously updating all of our other metrics. Now, our methodology is primarily based on supply-side research. So it entails my team, myself included, but I have a team of global analysts and industry analysts, consultants, account managers, talking to all of you guys all across the world, and to find out tidbits of information about what your activities are, how much you guys are selling, how you perceive the market, how you expect the market looks like today, and what it will look like tomorrow. And what we do is we aggregate that up into an aggregated industry review of our statistics. Hopefully it'll work. We'll go on to the next slide. 2 quick primary points we'll discuss today. First, we'll do a total overview of our third year of this report, global analysis, and I'll provide detailed statistics. As you already have possession of, you probably already have possession of the detailed spreadsheet, but I'll just give some quick overview. And I'll talk about some of the key underlying assumptions, key underlying trends that drives the market, what we're looking at today, what my crystal ball and our team of analysts see as really pushing the industry forward. As I already noted, we have a very detailed and dynamic scope of work in this research that has expanded over the last few years. But in all instances, we've been trying to stay consistent with the regions, the definitions of the regions and the definitions of the end markets. So these are the exact same, except for exact same as our one from last year, except for the further segmentation on the regional side, which we've chopped out China and Japan as well as being key segments. All right, now we're getting into the numbers. As of 2011, the market surpassed $1.8 billion in ingredient EPA DHA sales, growing from year on year, growing at a CAGR that we're expecting at 13.6%. We'll look at some year-on-year growth in a bit. What's interesting here, based on our analysis, we have surpassed 100,000 metric tons of shipments to downstream supply chains, product formulators in all channels. So that's a historic moment right there, 100,000 metric tons. Demand, obviously, as you can see, we're expecting to grow at a slightly lower compound annual growth rate in the future because we are expecting continued growth in prices, and we'll talk more about that in a bit. As you can see, our average price per kilogram in the report and spreadsheet that everyone will have possession of, it has average prices based on all the product sources and variants by geographies and end applications as well. What I like about doing this research for this group is the willingness to accept a spread of our research or a spread of our forecast. Everyone understands that forecasting is a crystal ball, and we develop various scenarios based on the outcome of certain events in the future. And we ask all of the industry participants that we speak with and all of our analysts to think about various events of what could or could not happen. And we develop these, a triple forecast, which we've been doing over the last few years, I think to everyone's benefit. In this year's model, you'll be able to play with this forecast and create your own scenario analyses based on your beliefs and based on new learnings in the future as well. In the worst case scenario at a global level, and this is assumed that, the strongest assumption here is that consumer demand and consumer awareness is not translating to increase in demand, which isn't really expected. It has a low probability of occurring. But also there will be a significant excess demand because of supply problems, which we don't expect to occur either because of the influx of new sources of EPA and DHA ingredients. But if that doesn't occur, if there's excess demand, we expect growth at a revenue basis at about 5.4%. But that's likely not going to happen. Most likely, we're still going to witness double-digit growth through the year 2016, driven by the emerging regions, increasing demand in China, increasing demand in Southeast Asia and Latin America really is going to support growth. And we're not expected to see lower growth rates in the near term in the developed world. North America, there's still market penetration to occur, even though it is, there are signals for market saturation, diminishing growth. Europe has reached a stage of maturity in some of its segments, but it's still, we at Frost & Sullivan still expect to see nice growth rates compared to other segments within the health ingredient space. And in the best case scenario is really tied also to this likely scenario that we're going to see significant price increases and consumers are willing to pay that on top of basically satisfying all excess demand that we're expecting. Not likely to happen. We feel that consumers will grow increasingly more price sensitive during the forecast period and beyond. I think there are limits, but we're going to, at the end of this presentation, I'll quickly talk about some recommendations, some models we've done for our internal research and also for some of our clients on help companies optimize pricing. As you can see, 60% of the global revenues and demand, or more than 60%, is still made up of two primary regions, North America and Europe, but it will diminish over time, the sum of that share, overtaken by China and Japan, or rather the rest of APAC, and then also Latin America, which we've included in the rest of the world. Revenue growth is, or revenues, as you can see, are much greater potential in Japan and in the developed world where there's a stronger willingness to pay. We're still seeing price sensitivity and lower prices in general in Asia Pacific, especially in China at the consumer side. So as you can see, demand, China's share of demand is much greater than the share of the revenues potential. That's likely to diminish over time during the forecast period. As you can see in this next chart, I have three of these charts. These are my favorite charts to make. They're called market planes. I'm sure everyone's familiar with them. But it gives you a good idea of where everyone stands and and the direction it will go during our forecast periods. North America and Europe, as you can see, are in the upper right-hand corner, still experiencing satisfactory growth rates at a global level across all ingredients. North America is probably in the best position relative to the rest because it's experiencing nice double-digit growth across all categories, and it's the biggest market. It is going to be diminishing over time. That's why the arrow is pointing down. That's the change in growth. Likewise for Europe. We do feel that Europe is still in the double-digit range, and that's inclusive of all ingredients, and we'll talk about some of the dynamics and what's happening in Europe. Rest of APAC, we feel, and that's inclusive of Southeast Asia, which we're very bullish on in terms of a strong potential of market growth, Malaysia, Singapore, Indonesia being the primary countries. But of course, India, a large unmet or a large untapped market. I don't think there's a very satisfactory product set really effectively meeting that demand, but we expect that to be overcome. Of course, China, this will likely, that's the game changer right there, as it has been for the last several years. The middle class of China is well over the size of the total population of the United States of America, over 300 plus million. That's just the middle class with the purchasing power to buy, and they have the need to buy health ingredients and fortified ingredients, and we're expected to see strong growth of China, and it'll probably be in this upper right-hand corner by the year 2015, 2016. And of course, Japan is a minor market relative, just because it's, in terms of total population, strong economy, but over the last 2 years, it has been experiencing some relatively flatter growth. And rest of the world, it is growing, but there's a lot of market penetration to still occur, primarily in Latin America. Middle East would also be inclusive of this. The thing about the rest of the world, they're more like city-states, so you have to have more of a city focus, an urbanization focus. It's not a country strategy, it's city strategy in this rest of the world. All right, so taking a step back, let's take another slice of this global data and really understand the splits of ingredient sales by all of the key end markets, the channels. We've identified 6 primary end markets that we've been tracking over the course of several years. Of course, dietary supplements is the biggest by far. Still experiencing strong growth at a global level. This includes all supplements and all of the oils sold through specialty store, mass markets, mass merchandisers, discount stores, mail order, etc. Classified, anything you would find in GNC basically would fall under this category, and pretty much not positioned as one of the other 5 categories. It is, based on our estimates and based on the feedback we've gotten from you guys, it is a maturing market segment. It has, there's a target base of consumers that is very loyal, but it's not growing at the same rates as it has been in years prior. In fact, I believe omega-3, just being ahead of the curve in this market, is pretty much has reached the bellwether of this market, and we expect there to be a different dynamic, and we'll talk more about that in a bit in terms of trading up. But there's other markets to go after. I think right now probably the most attractive market in the long run during this forecast period will be seeing what happens with the pharmaceutical sector. We all know that there's a lot of clinical trials right now, a lot of big companies getting into the game, a lot of different alternatives getting into the game, as we talked about, as we'll talk about more. And it's going to be a game changer in this market. And it's going to be a significant benefactor to what I'm calling trading up trend. And we'll talk more about that in a bit. Other areas, we've been tracking infant formula, stable growth, highly dependent on population growth. Still a very important market, but it's well known. Food and beverage is another market that we talk about a lot, and there's been a lot of companies in the omega-3 ingredient space has had problems penetrating this market due to multiple factors in terms of we've talked about technology challenges in the past, but it's primarily driven by the buying power and the bargaining position of the end users, the large CPG companies. And really lax regulations in terms of regulating claims, et cetera, which have all been constraints in terms of adoption among food and beverage manufacturers and adoption of your guys' products. All right. We have very detailed statistics based on all of the various sources as well. Natural fish oil, which is all the 30% oils, usually in an 18-12 ratio, is still the biggest market, but it's growing at a decreasing rate. It's because more and more of these ingredients are going to be going through an additional stage of processing in terms of concentration. Because consumers are now realizing the benefits of consuming higher and higher concentrates. They're trading up, and as I talked about before. 50% concentrates, or 40 to 50% concentrates, very strong growth rates, but that's at a relatively small base. If you looked at as you can see here, it's a relatively small market. Probably the biggest one to watch is this mid-level concentrates, 60 to 70%. That's really where you get the maximum, you minimize costs and you maximize revenues, is really at that concentration level. I think we all know that. And consumers are like the fact that they're consuming smaller capsules for the same amount of benefit that they used to get from the 30% oils. Other oils, such as krill oil, salmon oils, tuna oils, are all at very attractive growth rates. Relatively niche players, as you know, like the tunas, have a very strong footprint in food. Cod liver oil, salmon oils are specialty products within dietary supplements, all very well-regarded niche ingredients and are expected. And of course, krill, which is kind of a very important part of the omega-3 market, as we all know. Still relatively small in terms of market size, but a very high growth potential, and will likely be much more important in the long run. Some of the key drivers. In our forecast model, and we'll talk more about this in a bit at the end, we take qualitative trends through our discussions and we rank them and rate them and quantify them through our modeling process, and which is providing the spreadsheet. And we rank them and rate what are the most important factors driving our future growth forecast. We've identified this set of, seven primary drivers in the market. Some of them are positive, some of them are negative. So I'm calling them factors because they could be driving or they could be constraining. Customer need is still the strongest growth driver. There's still unmet need. There's still consumers' adoption to be had among a potential market that has yet to adopt. And that need is growing as awareness grows of the benefits of omega-3. That's expected to be the primary contributing factor to all of our growth forecasts across all product categories and all regions as well. Price sensitivity, however, will have a kind of an offsetting effect on that. We are witnessing growth in prices. Of course, in the dietary supplement space, it's a very loyal base of consumers, aren't really price sensitive, but as you go outside of this marketplace or when you go into emerging regions, price sensitivity is more of an important factor, and that may start to have a negative impact on demand growth. Rising raw material prices is a potential, when we do our forecast, we consider supply issues, and we do expect there to be some excess demand, but I think this will become a diminishing factor in the long run. Threat of substitutes. We talk about this. I think threats of substitutes much stronger in the food and beverage space or in the animal feed space, where there's a lower need among end users to use EPA DHA because they get the luxury of using the omega-3 claim without having to adopt that specific omega-3 content. So that's a threat in that end application, but this is a diminishing threat as well as people come to learn the difference between general omega-3 and EPA DHA. Finally, new markets, customer base penetration. As I noted, there's still some unmet users in other parts of the world, especially in emerging regions where you must have a city-state approach. And finally, regulatory friendliness is growing, and promotional efforts of suppliers will have a positive impact on the market as well. I'll quickly go over these slides. We all know this trend. Now, this is a general commodity food and beverage agriculture trend, but this is really an underlining factor of why fish oil prices and all commodities are growing at these rates. And Frost Sullivan and myself specifically has been very concerned about this pattern. It's going to have a lot of different positive and negative impacts on future revenue growth in all of these markets that we participate in, from food and beverage all the way to pharmaceutical, because they're all impacting the ingredient suppliers. And this is the structural shift in the price trend. This is on top of a slowing global economy, which is going to have a unfortunate negative effect on the food budgets of most consumers across the world, including the developed world, and even in the emerging world where price sensitivity will become a growing problem. So pricing is going to be increasingly more important and a harder tool to use in your marketing efforts. So it's really going to become more and more critical in the long run to really optimize your pricing strategies to ensure that, you know, with the specialty products that you're offering to the client, or to your customers, that they're optimized specifically. So I've done some further research. Nobody has seen this data yet, so I'm presenting this brand new. What we've done is we have this pricing model where we looked at the marginal implicit prices for each of these key components within omega-3 products across the world. This is only dietary supplements. We have a sample of 979 products globally, 6 different markets. I think there's a set of 20 different retailers that we surveyed, and we identified the price premiums on top of your standard 30% 1812 oils. This is what retailers are selling these products for. If I increase EPA content by 50%, holding all other quality attributes constant, I can get a 5% premium on that. That's what retailers are selling for. Likewise, if I increase the sum of EPA and DHA by 50%, so get to that 60% high concentrate level, I'm getting a 17.9% premium on top of natural fish oils per capsule. So very interesting. How do you use these? Well, these are all price premiums, so obviously you must look at your marginal cost of going from standard commodity oils to the cost of production of concentrates, or the cost of adding these other benefits, such as adding other omega-3s, or fortifying more omega-6, or adding flavors, adding other health benefits. These will all have positive impacts. Of course, you must also consider who your customers are. You know, are you selling in large bulk? These are pretty much just control factors, but they should be acknowledged as well as being critical in your pricing strategy. We have a lot of this material coming out very soon. I'll provide some snippets to the members in upcoming days, and of course you'll get this data as well. And I'll love to talk more about this in a bit. But the goal here is that, you know, it's going to become even more critical with increasing price sensitivity to really be able to effectively price quality attributes, because it's going to be pure consumer education effort from the supply side to ensure that willingness to pay for these quality attributes, these benefits that omega-3 offers to all humans that we just talked about, is going, you know, the willingness to pay for this is assured in the long run. You know, obviously in the food and beverage industry, any marketing usually falls into these 3 primary categories, and many times the smart value-added solutions are the ones who are able to promote that it's safe, promote that it's green, and of course healthy, and effectively do that through a effective labeling icon system. I think I talked about this 18 months ago, and I think GoEd has made leaps and bounds in this area, where you're adopting an effective end-user marketing tool where a consumer can look at one icon and know that it's green, safe, and healthy instantaneously. And all of your end users will use that same icon. And that's really a primary reason why there's a lot of confusion in the marketplace and a lot of other types of ingredient sectors, such as weight management. There's tons of weight management ingredients, but a lot of them, the consumers don't know if it's healthy or not. I mean, they know that it's for weight management, but they don't really know what they're consuming. They don't know necessarily that it's green. That's a significant set of the population that doesn't know if they should adopt it or not. And they don't know if it's safe in many instances. And I think GoEd specifically has made a lot of good moves in terms of developing a nice icon message. And I think in the next step, it'll be the average Joe like myself and my wife, who consumes a lot of omega-3, to really look at that icon and know that it's a green, safe, and healthy product. Because I think in the long run, it's going to be critical for maintaining a sustainable margin. Because right now, we are seeing industry consolidation. It's occurring right now. But if industry consolidation is not the primary marketing tool to ensure a sustainable margin in the long run, given the increasing cost and given growth in prices, it's going to be effective product differentiation and optimized pricing strategies. That's really going to help build a sustainable margin in the long run. So contact me. Feel free to contact me directly to talk about this model. Everyone will probably, if you ask Adam or ask anyone at GoEd or even ask me, I'll give you the model. It's really important. This is kind of a generalized model for all users to use, but it's really important that, this is a scenario analysis building and every company is different. So if you want to talk to me about how to customize the model, let me know. If you have any questions in usability, et cetera. I've already talked to several people already about this, and everyone's been very good sports to me about this, and we'll make it work specifically for you. So with that, my contact details are, most people already have it, so feel free to contact me anytime. And we'll talk in a bit.
Thanks very much, Chris.